Hi, everyone. I'm Brittany, the host of the Shed podcast, and also a health coach here at Shed. If you feel like you've tried everything, every diet, every reset, every plan, only to end up right back at square one, you are not alone. And you may be wondering, are GLP-1 medications just another one of those fads? Well, today I'm sitting down with Coach Amita, a certified health coach here at Shed, who's coached hundreds of our members through their GLP-1 journey. We're diving into what makes GLP-1 medications different and why this is not just another fad. Amita, welcome to the show. I'm so happy to have you here today.
I am so happy to be here. I'm so excited.
Yay. Well, let's go ahead and dive in. Like I said in my intro, I'm so excited to speak to you because you have so much experience specifically with GLP-1 members. And so it is a little bit different. And I think people who are maybe wanting to explore this GLP-1 option are really going to appreciate the information that you have to share with us today. So my first question for you is, from your perspective as a health coach, what makes GLP-1s fundamentally different from a fad diet?
So from a fad, so they're similar in the aspect that they're temporary, right? But the fundamental difference, I believe, is how it's used. So GLP-1s are thought of as like a quick fix in the mainstream, and I mean that's understandable, but I think it really depends on how you use it. And again, they're a tool, right? So, and they're a tool manyfold. Many will talk about, using it as a boost or like a kickstart to their weight loss journey, kind of like jump starting a car, right? So when the battery dies, are you going to keep jumping the battery every time that you need to drive somewhere and then eventually burning that battery out? Probably not. You're probably actually going to go jumpstart the car and then go somewhere to change the battery, right? So I liken fad diets to repeated jump starts, but the proper use of a GLP-1, I believe, is jump starting the battery again to get to the ultimate destination of replacing the battery. Except in this case, you're not replacing a car battery, you're replacing your current lifestyle habits and whatever got you to where you are right now. So it which makes you interested or in using the GLP-1. So if that makes sense.
Totally. I love analogies, and I loved that analogy specific because I think what you said about a lot of people think GLP-1s are another just quick fix or fad diet. And what you said about there is a right way to use GLP-1s and there's a wrong way to use GLP-1s is the really important piece there, right? If you use it as a quick fix or as a fad diet, it's going to be just that. But there is a way where we can use it as a tool. We can use it to create some of that real change that we know is going to be sustainable while using that GLP-1 as this amazing tool to, what I like to use as an analogy is like raise that ceiling in order to be able to form a lot of those habits. Speaking about the right and the wrong ways, tell me a little bit more about that. What are the right ways? What are the wrong ways?
Which one do you want first?
Let's do the wrong ways. We'll start there.
And again, this is completely just my perspective as a coach who's been working in the field for a very long time. GLP-1s haven't been around for that long. So, but this is just what I'm used to seeing now. So the wrong way, using it to block the food noise. I'm sure you've heard about food noise. Using it to block the food noise, eat as little as possible, using it to, increase the satiety, again, make you feel full. While eating whatever you want in whatever quantity. So without any real attempt to change or create healthy habits or really truly learn how to eat properly by creating a balanced approach to nutrition. So essentially just using it as a Band-Aid where you can eat what you want, feel full, and not have to worry about overeating, and bypassing the actual habit building process that's really going to serve you long term.
Yeah. It's almost like something that just came to mind is whenever we have a headache and we think to go take like Tylenol or Advil or something like that, That is something that is going to help, but how can we get to the deeper root of the problem to figure out, why did that headache occur? Am I not getting sleep? Am I not staying hydrated? Am I really stressed in my life? How can I use the Tylenol or Advil to help me get rid of this pain so that I can actually explore what sleep could look like or what more hydration could look like? It's kind of the same as how we use that GLP-1 as a tool. And so that wrong way would be to just use the Tylenol or Advil to get rid of the headache and say, okay, I'm going to continue to live my life as I have been and continue to get headaches and can continue to need that like Tylenol or Advil. So now let's talk about the right ways to use GLP-1 medications.
Right way. Okay, so obviously stabilizing blood sugar, right? If you have any sort of dysregulation in that sense, diabetes and such, but it helps individuals like tame their appetite. So we tame the appetite in order to train their appetite or regulate it essentially. And it allows you to create that mental bandwidth to focus on creating the habits that need to be at the core of your lifestyle. So long-term lifestyle habits, it's almost like putting training wheels on your bike until you're able to find your balance and ride without that additional support. It decreases the food noise. It allows you to focus on the building and solidifying of those habits so that when, again, you take the training wheels off, you're already set in those habits and now you know how to maintain this long term.
Yes, I think you bring up a good point of this idea of appetite regulation when it comes to GLP-1 medications. And even within that, there's a right way to approach that and maybe a wrong way to approach that. And it is kind of what we were talking about as the Band-Aid, the quick fix, to just say, oh, it's regulating my appetite, and so let me rely on this GLP-1 medication to do that, while not making those fundamental changes below the surface and underneath. I know something that I talk about in my coaching room so often is emotional triggers and what causes emotional eating, portion control, and slower, more mindful eating in order to be able to listen to those internal cues as opposed to maybe external cues. And so I think when we compare GLP-1 medications to fad diets really rely on willpower alone. It's let me restrict, let me cut out these certain foods, let me put that Band-Aid on and try to fight this appetite, try to fight these cravings that pop up. And if I just have enough willpower, then I'll be able to reach my goal and be able to maintain it long term. But I think what, I know you and I know so well, and what a lot of people are starting to realize is it's not about willpower. Not even the healthiest person in the world can have enough willpower to cut out certain foods that our body needs so desperately to thrive and to live and those sorts of things. And so whenever we talk about appetite regulations, what shifts for people when appetite and cravings aren't running the show anymore on a GLP-1 medication?
Once, like, some of my clients, this, for example, I see this, once they actually start losing weight and they get that little bit of that kickstart, they are almost more willing to dive deeper and explore. They're not as afraid of what they're going to find because they see that they are able to make progress in the direction of their goals, whereas they never were before, where it was always a defeatist attitude. And it almost, that kickstart almost ignites this momentum in them, where they're now motivated to actually put in that work to change their habits because they see that it's possible now. And again, creating the space to get into, like, to restructure their whole lifestyle. I'm sure we've all experienced a lapse of motivation and a boost of motivation, but when you actually see that you have that self-efficacy, really, that you can actually do the things that you tell yourself you're going to do, which, by the way, is the root of confidence. It's, everybody thinks it's a superficial thing, right? It's what you can do or how you look. I just want to feel confident, but at the core of it, there is an element of I self-trust, really. I do the things that I tell myself I'm going to do. I follow through with it. So once they actually start to build that confidence, they're way more motivated, because I see it in the mirror now. They're way more motivated to actually make those lasting changes. Does that answer your question?
It does. And I think it brings up something very important in terms of how it's different from a fad diet, because I think you do a fad diet and it can take a little bit of time to start maybe seeing those results. And then you start to get discouraged by not only am I not really seeing this huge result, but this is also miserable. I'm cutting out carbs. I'm putting so much mental energy into this diet that it's taking away from other areas. And with the GLP-1 medication, it is that tool that we really talked about at the beginning where it helps kickstart, it helps jumpstart so that you start seeing progress and you start to think, oh my gosh, maybe I can do this. Maybe this is possible for me. And you start to gain this confidence of like, oh my gosh, I am loving what I see in the mirror and this is possible for my body. And it creates that motivation to then say, okay, why am I overeating? Why am I stress eating? And that's why I love that we have coaching, is because we are trained professionals to help really get into the nitty gritty of the root cause to that. I think another concern with GLP-1 medications is the worry of, will I just gain this back once I get off of the medication, right? Because that's what happens with most fad diets, is we do it for a certain period of time, but then it ends up coming back. Or I have a lot of clients that I work with who have had even gastric bypass surgery. I have a lot of clients that have had that. And it did serve as a quick fix for them because they didn't make those deeper rooted changes in terms of what are my emotional triggers that cause me to overeat? Why am I not able to stop eating when I'm satisfied instead of, overly full? And so, what is your coaching approach to making results really last with GLP-1s?
So this is definitely the most common concern of starting any GLP-1 medication or just any weight loss program in general. I want to refer back to my point of the right versus the wrong way with a GLP med, or any weight loss medication, that is. So I've used this metaphor I've been coaching for 8 years. And I've used this metaphor that you can't build a skyscraper on a sinkhole. So I just want to let that sit for a second, right? You need a solid foundation. So let's say you're building a house for yourself or your family to live in, and you would want that foundation to be as strong and sturdy as possible, right? So something that's able to withstand bouts of inclement weather, something that's going to last over the years. Example, I live in Florida, okay? So most, if not all, like houses, apartments, anything, most are hurricane proof or hurricane enforced windows, because in the event like a major storm blows in, we want as much protection as possible. So if you're serious about losing weight and keeping it off, you'll want a sustainable foundation that will help protect you from relapsing back into your old habits. So again, this is a conversation for another day, lapse versus relapse, but you want that again, that structure, that foundation. So in this analogy, your habits are the infrastructure. They're like the literal bars, beams, and bricks of your new home. Knowledge is helpful, no doubt about it. But knowledge is just a blueprint, okay? It means nothing until you actually create the foundation. So what are you going to do with the knowledge, right? So I'm sure you and myself and every listener can relate to what I call the fundamental flaw of the human condition, which is, I know what I need to do, I just can't do it often. Yeah. With it, and I don't know why. So we all experience that, all of us. And to your point of allowing the space to dive deeper into the why do I do this, I want to mention that, again, clients may be a little bit more willing to dive in deep into that, because once they have started to see that progress, there's a little less emotional charge around the whole situation, and they're able to take it, in most cases, able to take a step back and look at this from an objective standpoint and not attach so much judgment to the habits and the behaviors, because they can see that they are moving in the right direction. So it almost creates a little bit of separation between, this is me, I am not my habits, I am not my behaviors, however you'd like to see that. But you are not a bad habit. You are not a bad person. You are someone who is working on your habits. And again, it creates a little bit of that distance. But as far as the fundamental flaw of the human condition, that's where I come in as a coach. We're specifically trained in habits and behavior change. There's definitely a psychological aspect to it. So it's not just what's on the surface. It's usually not all just about, like, it's just about the food, or I just don't have enough time. It's digging into, what do you value, and how those values are reflected in your priorities, and how those actions follow those priorities, and getting really clear on the why. So if you don't have a good reason for this journey, you're not going to stick to it, right? You're not going to do it the right way, right? It's really fully committing yourself to the transformation, not just weight loss, the transformation. It's shifting your whole identity in the best of ways.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think I did an episode with Elizabeth a few weeks ago on just the general, what is a health coach? Because I think so many people don't know what a health coach is. They think that it's nutrition and exercise, and I already know what to eat. I know what's healthy. I know that I should be exercising more, but it is that flaw, of the human condition. And it is this frustration with, I know what I should do, but why can I not do that? And I love your analogy of building that infrastructure so that the skyscraper has a really solid foundation, because that is a great description of what a GLP-1 serves as. It's not the foundation. It's not that thing, that solid thing that the skyscraper is standing on. It's just almost a tool that is helping build the foundation so that the skyscraper can stand. And so really the foundation of all of this is coaching and habit change, and getting to, what are my emotional triggers for why I overeat, and how can I work with a coach to then come up with a strategy and healthy coping behaviors, or even just become aware things that I didn't know that I was doing, or emotions that I didn't know I was feeling, and then coping with food or stress eating. How can I explore other ways of coping that actually benefit me and are more positive, and that have that positive reinforcement? Or, oh my gosh, I didn't know that I was eating so quickly that I couldn't even stop at satisfied because I was eating so quickly. And how can I work with a coach to find tactics to slow down my eating, so that just even that awareness of my hunger and fullness cues can help me portion control and stop eating at satisfied so much easier, right? And I have conversations all the time with members about, I didn't realize how much more I was going to benefit from health coaching than just nutrition and just exercise. It's this really holistic approach that we take at Shed, which is like diving into so many deeper things than just those surface level things. So I appreciate your analogy so much, because I think it really like drives home the point that the GLP-1 is not the quick fix in the fad diet if you use it in the right way. It's really using it as a tool to build that foundation for that big skyscraper that is going to blossom into you, like stepping into that real version of you who that, is deep down inside within you. So tell me a little bit, I want to get a little bit into the specifics of what this sustainable weight loss looks like. Obviously, with fad diets, you can lose like 10 pounds in a week, or, 20 pounds in a couple of weeks. And that's kind of the marketing that they use to maybe market some of these fad diets sometimes. And so I think whenever people think about GLP-1s, they do expect this huge difference in such a short amount of time. And I know I've had members who have said, I'm only losing X amount of pounds per week. I'm afraid that this medication isn't working for me. And it is the conversation of what are the expectations? What are the real expectations on a GLP-1 medication? And what does it actually look like on a week to week basis as people are going through the process of a GLP-1 journey?
So, truthfully, I love this topic and this question because it gives me the opportunity to publicly address and debunk these unrealistic expectations that many individuals hold very high and hold very tightly when they begin a GLP-1 medication or program. Um, the general expectation is I'm going to lose weight very quickly. I've heard of so and so Karen from the whoever that they lost 20 pounds. They lost 20 pounds in 2 weeks, right? These like almost gross amount of weight that in a very short period of time, which I'm gonna burst the bubble, isn't healthy in the least, because not only are you losing a lot of that is water, right? You're losing a lot of inflammation as well. But if you're going to lose weight that quickly, there's going to be a lot of muscle loss also. So that is critical. Muscle mass is critical to maintaining your metabolism, but also just your structural and functional health. What we don't want to do is lose muscle mass. And that's again why us coaches, we promote the higher protein diets, so that you are really trying to lose more of the body fat. It mitigates the loss of the muscle. Realistically, we say anywhere from like 1 to 2 pounds a week is what's healthy and sustainable. And someone listening might be like, no, not like I want to lose 10 pounds in a week, 5 pounds in a week. You can do that with water. You can do that, but ultimately it is not it's not sustainable. And I want to really drive the point home of bio-individuality, that everybody's body is very different. So someone who has used a GLP-1 medication, maybe they lost twice as much weight as you. Maybe another person has lost half as much. It's really an individual journey because everybody's bodies are so different. But I think one of the most damaging things is when someone comes into a program using GLP-1s and has such a high expectation. One thing I say, not only to my clients, I use this every day in my life, friends, whatever, is the most certain and surefire way to be disappointed in life is to have expectations. Just let that sit in for a minute. Because the disappointment comes from the gap between your expectations and the reality. So you can apply that to lots of areas of life.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it is important to set that clear. Like I like average zero point 0.5 to 1.5 pounds per week is what we kind of think about as average. And you make a great point that everybody's body is different. And so some people are on that 0.5 track and some people are on that 1.5, maybe even up to 2 pounds weight track. Some people have larger amounts of weight to lose. And so maybe they're a little bit higher than someone who has a smaller amount of weight to lose. There's so many factors that play into it. And so I think embarking on this GLP-1 journey and letting go of the expectation that I'm going to lose this many pounds per week is really important. Obviously, it's important to have a direction and have this kind of, I can see where I'm going, I see what I want for myself from this journey, and I know that somehow I am going to get there. But the process to getting there, we do need to be a little bit more fluid and open. And as long as you are putting in the effort, those results are, going to come in a healthy way. I think that's a really important part.
I do want to mention one thing, and it goes along with the expectations. If there's not enough education around the GLP-1 medications and how they work and what is a realistic outcome from them, there's almost this idyllic perception of them, of I'm going to take this and the weight is magically going to come off. And it's all going to be body fat. And it's all going to happen really quickly. And again, I believe this is just like a facade, like a perception that's been created somehow in mainstream society. But when it comes down to it, there's going to be plateaus, right? We might have temporary lapses. There are weeks at a time where some clients don't lose weight, but then we make adjustments in their lifestyle, which is where coaching comes in. We make adjustments along with that, and then they start to lose weight again. So it's not as simple as I'm going to take this medication and the weight's going to fall off. And I want to stress that for anybody listening. That's just not how it works.
Yeah. And I think it is this almost stepwise process for a lot of people where we focus on those easier habits, so to speak, at the beginning. A lot of times we start with something as simple as getting, 64, 70 ounces of water per day. And it's how can we come up with strategies to do that first? And we work on that for a few weeks. And then we add on that second layer once they've kind of mastered that. And so it is this, okay, well, I've mastered this kind of phase. And maybe I start to hit a plateau, and then you come to your coach and it's like, okay, well, maybe we need to get into that second phase, that second layer. I had a client this week who has totally transformed her nutritional habits, has gone from no exercise at all to exercising consistently on a week to week basis. She isn't super far away from her goal weight. She's probably 10 pounds away. But this week she was kind of like, I think I'm ready for that next phase. And we started talking about emotional triggers and why she overeats and portion control. And I've been working with this client for probably 6 months at this point. And so it has been that stepwise thing where we don't throw everything on you all at once. We kind of figure out what's the low hanging fruit and how can we kind of build on top of that to continue to lose weight in a healthy way, to build habits sustainably, and then leave room so that whenever you hit a plateau, there's still more things that we can do below the surface to kind of help you get through that plateau. All right, Amita, if someone is listening right now and is still kind of feeling like this might be just another failed attempt at another fad diet, what would you have to say to them today?
I'd say that your feelings are valid, first of all, first and foremost. Your struggle is real. Your pain is valid. Your frustration is warranted. And the past attempts and programs have failed you, not the other way around. Okay, so let that sink in. They have failed you. You have not failed them. And the real kicker is they're designed that way, fad diets, to fail, essentially. So as a coach who has heard this same story countless times, I'd like to invite you to take a chance on yourself again. Just one last time. And this time with the support, with the guidance, with the resources that you actually deserve. And I say this in all sincerity to anyone who feels stuck, like your body has betrayed you in a sense, because I do know that's a very common feeling among the clients that I work with. You have everything you need to succeed and completely transform your life. You don't need more knowledge right now. You don't need to exhaust yourself in the gym every day or follow a strict diet and whittle your quality of life down to dust. As a professional health coach working in this industry for 8 years, I strongly encourage you to consider that what you actually may need is the right combination of tools and application of the tools to create a sustainable foundation. Build your self-confidence, your self-efficacy, and fundamentally shift, again, the identity, the type of person. You are the type of person who achieves her goals. And doing that while holding love and compassion for yourself along the way. You have this. You really do. That's what I would say.
I love that. Well, thank you so much, Amita, for joining us today. This was all so helpful and so informational. Thank you, everyone who tuned in and listened this week of the Shed podcast. We will see you next week.